Hey everyone, we're going to be swapping out the spur gear on the XMAXX for something that gives more speed. And for this one, I'll just walk you through the process. It's pretty straightforward. What we're going to need to do is get these two bolts right there. That one, we're going to need to remove all of these. All those, and then we'll have to drop the motor. And for the motor, is just underneath. There's 4 screws right there. We'll drop it. We'll set the gear mesh, and once we get all these bolts out, you'll get the I think it's called the cush drive out, and we'll be able to get the spur gear out. It's held by 3 bolts. Once we get that, put the new one in there, and we'll set the mesh, and everything is just reassembled from there. Fairly easy process. Should be fun. Let's get to it. Gone ahead and got the gear protector out, and that's how it's going to look after the 2 screws have been removed. Now I'm going to move on and get these 4 out of the way. By the way, the tool that I'm using is a 2.5 hex. I had my power drill, but my dad took it for some other stuff, so doing it all manually. However, having these extra long ones definitely helps. Makes things a lot easier to get in. And especially with it being magnetic, adds a bonus. So definitely, I would say invest in some good tools. Makes things a lot easier. The first time I did this, it was through using some extra long hex bits. It was terrible.
All right, and it's out. Come on. I thought it was jamming a little from somewhere here. Okay.
And we've got it out. Now, it is worth noting to say that the left-hand side, or this side, has the smaller screws, and the right-hand side has the longer ones. So I typically try to keep the screws in the position that they're already in. That way I don't have to worry about it. So we'll keep that there. But just remember, left side, small ones, right side has the longer ones. And this is how it looks after we've got it removed. Now, it's just literally a matter of picking up the cush drive. Well, might have to drop the motor. Yeah. Or, never mind, you didn't have to. If you get stuck, just spin the spur gear manually and it'll come out. And on these, be careful, there are some bearings, which I just dropped. Oh gosh, this is really rusty. There's some bearing spots in there, so if it doesn't sit right when you put it back on, it's your bearings. You just didn't put it on right. While I am doing this, I've decided to upgrade the fans on this motor, and that's going to be easiest for me to do after I have the motor pins out. I'll just pick it up. There's some 4 screws right here, and I'll swap them out for some high flow fans. So this is how it looks right after you get it out. There's a bearing here, gear here, and this is the spur gear. We're gonna go ahead and remove the bolts, all of the bolts around here. Well, actually just the outer ones. I think it's the outer ones. We'll find out. And we'll pop the new one in. The one I've got is just from China. It's a cheap one. It's a hardened steel 50 tooth versus a 54, so it'll be a little bit faster. I could have gone for the optional 46, but I couldn't find it. I don't know where I put it, and I didn't want to use the original steel one that it comes with. I wanted a hardened steel. So we're gonna go with this one for now. All right, so here it is, the stock one and the 50 tooth. As you can tell, the 50 tooth is a lot thicker, and I like that. Here's how everything looks. By the way, you have to take out all 6 screws. There's 6 in there. Got to take all 6 out. Here's how it looks after you take them out. Putting it in is just pretty simple. Just lock them in. Let's see. Now I went ahead and just added some garage door lubricant, which is just silicone spray inside because there's quite a bit of rust. But just wanted to also show a quick tip on how to get this lined. So once you have it like this, push this piece here all the way towards the end and it'll catch on to something there. And then this piece, as you can see it, the screw holes align. Each of these align right here. So that's the 3, and just kind of get it in there. As best as you can. As you can see on the other 3 holes, it doesn't align, so it's only the 3. So once you get it aligned, then you can put your spur gear, which aligns on the other 3, just like that. Well, shoot, it's coming out. Okay. Boom, just like that. And then I'm just going to start putting the screws back in, and that should be it. Update, I actually didn't need to take out the inner screws. That was a mistake on my end, but I'm kind of glad I did because I was able to lubricate the internals there because there was some rust in there. So if you want to do it, go ahead and do it, but just remember it's not really necessary. Just after I put that back on, it looks like this. You don't need to have it super tightened down because it wasn't like that from the factory. And then just put your other ones are right on top of it. Now we're gonna go ahead and drop the motor. So there's 4 screws right here. So I'm gonna take these out, and it'll loosen up the motor. And this looks like it's gonna be this is a size 2.5 as well. Gosh, I wish I had a drill. And once you've kind of gotten most of these screws loose, just put your hand underneath the motor so that it doesn't plop anywhere. Wish I had the drill. Okay, let's start taking these screws out. I think they use the same screws everywhere, so you don't have to have it memorized for this order. And we've got the 4 bolts out. Now the motor can be lifted. And just wiggle it a little bit if you can't get it out. And just like that, we should be able to get it out of the way. And now we're gonna align the mesh to the gears that we've gotten. So right now it's set to the factory one, which is at I-1854. What I did was 1850. So I still have the factory 18 in there. I'll keep that in there. And so that position for me, 1850 is gonna be G. So I'm gonna go ahead and take the pins out. Just use like a plier or something like that. Here's a close-up of how the mesh chart looks. Currently in I, I'm gonna set it to 1850. So move both of these to the G. Right there and right there. And you can do that according to however your layout is. For me, it's gonna be G. A little rusty. I got one in, got both of them to G. Then just kind of make sure they're kind of pushed in there. And now this is an optional step. I'm just gonna basically, remove these two and these 2 bolts so that I can get to the fans and just swap out the fans for a high flow one. So the fans are kind of like this. I did a quick test on like the factory one versus these cheapos that I got from China. These seem to be a little bit more fast flowing, high flowing. Compared it to this one, which I also got from China, and I didn't really like this. I feel like this was a little bit weaker in airflow. This one was considerably a little bit faster. So just that, but here's how it goes. There's a little a stand right over there, and that's where it kind of just drills in. And then there's 2 clips right here and right there. Just kind of extend those, pop it out, make sure you have the orientation right, and that's it. Simple as that. So I'll just do this. Let's see if I can do a live example with one hand. So getting this, drop it in. Okay. And it just clips just like that. And then you just make your connections. Give me 1 second. And we test. And now it didn't work. Let's see what we did wrong. Okay, we got one working, and the other's probably just, if it doesn't work, it's probably just reverse. And we have both. You can tell just from like the sound, this is significantly louder than how the factory one is. It's moving a lot more air, pushing in a lot more air. So yeah, that's that. And then we'll just kind of put this back, put the 4 screws on the heat sink, and we'll be done. All right, so we put the 4 screws back in, we set the gear mesh on the motor, and now we put the cush drive back in. One tip is to make sure your bearings kind of line up. There's a bearing here that should go into that bearing hole. There's a bearing here that should go into the bearing hole. Kind of just take a visual check, looks good. Looks a little bit like it could go like over here, but that's probably just because it doesn't have tension right now. Once you kind of put tension, it looks like it's a lot better. So just keep that in mind. Yeah, look at that. It's pretty much looks good. Once you kind of put the cover on the cush drive back in, since I haven't bolted the motor back down, I'm just gonna put some pressure on it so that it doesn't move, and then just kind of drive it, see how it is. If it starts making unusual noises, kind of stop, see what's going on. This seems normal, so the mesh looks good, everything looks fine. We should be able to start bolting everything back on slowly and surely. The mesh looks great, right on the middle. I typically don't like to mess with the pinion just because pinion is very difficult to kind of get in line. And I've always noticed every time I get a pinion out, there's a little screw, grub screw that always comes out, and I've used Loctite on it and it stays in there, but it's just a pain in the butt that I don't want to go through. That's why I left the pinion as is. But yeah, just kind of driving it, sounds normal, looks good. So we'll just go ahead and put the screws on the motor, flip it, and put the 4 screws on the motor back. Thanks for bearing with me, guys. I just wanted to cut the video so I can kind of fast forward on this stuff that's fairly easy. If there's anything that I would think is complicated, I would mention it as soon as I begin filming. So I've got the 4 bolts on the bottom. Everything looks good. Now we'll just kind of see how it looks. Yep, sounds normal, looks good. Just kind of have an operating eye on it. No unusual noises, which is great. Perfect. So you're ready to go. The last step is just to put this back on, this cover, and you have successfully changed the spur gear. And if you wanted to change the fans, you've changed the fans. Boom. Enjoy.